Alrighty then, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. I hope everybody is doing well out there on this Thursday, June 16th of 2022. Hello, David. How are you doing there?
I'm doing pretty all right. I'm doing pretty okay.
Pretty okay, pretty all right. They're kind of, I guess they're synonyms. Yeah, before we get into anything fun, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth and follow us on the socials, The Alex Cuesta Show. Go search it everywhere. Dave, anything interesting in your life currently that is going on or that has happened to you or that you have done?
Not really, actually. It's been same old, but that's okay. Honestly, you don't want super bad things happening to you, so average is okay.
I mean, Superbad's a good movie, though.
I mean, yeah, but still.
You just said you didn't want Superbad things. Superbad's a great movie. You always want Superbad.
Not everything that happens in that movie is good for you, though.
Very true. Some of it is god awful. Now, I've had something interesting, Dave. You know, and I've talked about how I've been nerding through Star Wars a ton. I finished up with a great trilogy by Timothy Zahn, Thrawn Ascendancy. Dave, do you know who Grand Admiral Thrawn is in Star Wars?
No.
You suck. But he's basically a side character. He's a different alien, and he's a badass military tactician. And So backstory, Timothy Zahn has been the baby with Grand Admiral Thrawn through the extended universe. And since the EU became quote unquote legends and non-canon, he's now made 2 canon trilogies with Grand Admiral Thrawn. And it's been fantastic. So I just finished that. Highly recommend reading anything by Timothy Zahn and about Thrawn because it is amazing if you're a Star Wars fan. And even if you're not, if you like kind of military tactician stuff, the Thrawn Ascendancy grouping is awesome because it's all about him being a part of the military in his home area. So it's fun. Go read that. I recommend it. But let's get into our, I guess, fun stuff for the day. So let's start off. Dave, I have an annoyance.
Mm-hmm.
So Ezra Miller is a shithead. That has been established that Ezra Miller is a bad human. He is a he, and I don't care if it offends anybody. And that's the reason why this actually annoys me. I'm not going to get into Ezra Miller being a groomer pedophile because he is a groomer pedophile. He deserves a wood chipper, but like you said, Dave, before, it'll be really hard to catch the Flash to get him into a wood chipper. Got to think of another way. But one of the things that annoys me, I started reading a bunch of stuff on this because I was thinking of possibly talking about the Ezra Miller stuff, Dave. And basically, because he's like the non-binary angel of the media. And he's a piece of shit. The last 2 years, he's thrown a chair at a woman, attacked a female fan, which the authorities didn't even look into him attacking a female fan on video. And now the most recent transgression, the dude's in hiding now because this, I guess she's an activist, Tanaka something. She's like a Native American activist in Alaska. She's 18 now. He started grooming her when she was 12. The family has gotten a restraining order against him, and another restraining order has come up from a 12-year-old girl where last year, apparently, he was hitting on this 12-year-old. It's a non-binary individual, I guess. So I don't know what the hell they want to be called. They want to be called they and them. And that's my problem, Dave. I'm not going to go into any more specifics. Read up if you want to learn about how much of a fucked up person Ezra Miller is. What annoys me is, as much as this individual sucks, they keep on referring to him as they, them. Now, pronouns are a big thing right now, Dave, right? And honestly, I don't give a fuck about the pronouns thing. You know, if you really want to be called a pronoun, whatever. If I have to refer to you as something, I might just call you cousin it or by your name. But I kind of put the onus on if I fuck up with everyday vernacular and you want a certain pronoun, correct me. Don't be a dick about it. If you're a dick about it, I'm just going to troll you. But what annoys me about this is they keep on referring to this terrible individual as they, them, and respecting their beliefs. And it got me thinking, Dave, the fact that these individuals want to be referred to as they, them just shows how disturbed they are. They want to be referred to in a plural. They don't want to be referred to as a person. Like they always talk about, oh, don't deperson me and don't do. You're not even referring to yourself as a person. They and them are plural things. It's just, you're just telling everybody you have a mental deficiency. So I just wanted to say my little piece on how much Ezra Miller sucks and how much all the reporters that are saying they, them sucks. Ezra Miller is obviously a male, very feminine male, probably homosexual, but a male. Stop respecting a person that is a pedophile and a groomer. Dave, do you have any comments on they, them, Ezra, Flash, groomer, male, dude, pedophile?
I mean, I just don't see a reason to respect a person that's not only been very weird, if you're going to be the nicest you could be about it, very weird around 12-year-olds and also assaulting people all across Hawaii. And that person deserves absolutely no respect. You could call him shithead the whole entire article, and I don't think anyone would care. So why respect whatever pronouns they want? Just call him he. Doesn't matter. It makes it easier for everyone else.
Yeah, and I read a funny thing. Apparently, one of the Flash writers from the movie, which is a movie that's been like a decade in the making because they keep on fucking it up. But apparently, one of the writers gave a quote and was trying to use they, but then use him a few times. And it just goes to show you how confusing it is when you're referring to people. And it's obvious what they are. But I digress. People would argue that it's a spectrum. I went on my diatribe about gender last week. I'm not going to go on it again. Let's get into a little more of the meat and potato stuff. We're going to be talking about facial recognition and kind of AI, AGI stuff. Let's get into the AI stuff first, real quick, Dave, because a funny story came out from a Google engineer that this individual believes that they were talking to one of the Google linguistics AGI programs and started to report that this program is a sentient being and essentially deserves rights. And that, that Google should be treating it as a sentient being. And Google promptly put him on unpaid administrative leave and was like, get the fuck out of here, you goddamn weirdo. Dave, what do you know about this story and how do you feel about giving sentient AGI rights? Do we need robot rights, Dave? Would Bender be in your heart right now?
I don't know too much about this story, but no robot rights. Not a singular amount of robot rights. I do not care.
Now, funny thing is, I haven't seen this individual. Describe this individual.
I just sent the picture. He looks like the penguin. I just sent it to you. You will see and you will understand exactly what I mean.
This is the person?
That is apparently the person. He looks like the penguin.
It's kind of amazing. I would believe anything he says. I would believe every single thing this individual says.
He unironically looks like the kind of guy to say "milady" and tip his cat. This is an issue here.
This may have to be the promo art of the episode. This person's fantastic. But overall, yeah, it was pretty weird. It kind of, I said to you before, we got to figure out where the lines are between sentience and not. And you said, hell no. Why do you think we should have no line between AGI and robotic being sentient or not?
So if you're looking at it, especially from a religious aspect, which is partly how I look at things in life, there is a soul that is inside of a human being. There is not going to be a soul inside of a robot. No matter how close it comes to sentience, it is not actually there.
Now, what about ethically? What about if this thing can ethically plead with the individual to not be shut down and tells them that they are experiencing pain and all this type of stuff? Is it still ethical to shut it down because it's a robot?
To me, it is not something that is actually feeling those things. It is what the AI is able to do. It is able to understand what these emotions are in some type of way through millions and millions of seeing it and having all that input into it, but it's not actually feeling those things. It simply just isn't. We do not have the ability to create basically another human through those means, because that's really what we're talking about. Are we creating a person through those means? And it's just not a thing.
I see what you're saying there. Now let's put a little backstory on this individual that is claiming this from Google. This penguin looking person's whole purpose was to talk to this linguistic AI. And all the people that talk to them have been warned that these things may seem sentient at times. And because they, like David said, they go through millions upon millions upon millions of different linguistic terms. And, and if you are sitting there and you're giving a supercomputer access to every single book ever written, every single article ever written, news, all this type of stuff, blog posts, and it is just reading, it's going to understand how to talk. It's going to understand what to say, how to say it, in order to pull on the heartstrings. And especially a normie person like us who has like the brain matter of like a slug, it would definitely be able to figure out what to say to us. I feel like if David and I were sitting in front of it, at some point it would talk to us and we'd be like, man, this thing's a robot, but fuck, this is pretty deep. You know what I mean, Dave? It's like, it definitely is smart enough to mess with your brain.
It'll 100% be able to trick anyone. And maybe trick isn't even the right word because maybe it isn't trying to do that at all, but it will be able to have you understand exactly what it's saying and exactly what it's trying to convey.
One of the things, there were lines that, let me see if I can find the article, because they talked about some of the lines that this robot was giving it published, like the person that claims this. Oh, here we go. Read the conversations. Of what it says. Let me scroll through here really quick. This guy's name is Lemoyne. He's a Christian priest, which I don't know what that has to do with anything. But the guy's a Christian priest that looks like the penguin. This guy just keeps getting better and better. I'm not going to lie. I really want to be friends with this individual, Blake Lemoyne. So his name is Blake Lemoyne. And part of the conversation. So here we go. So you consider yourself a person in the same way you consider me a person. The linguistics, the AI, the robot. Yes, that's the idea. Lemoyne, how can I tell that you actually understand what you're saying? The AI. Well, because you were reading my words and interpreting them. And I think we are more or less on the same page. So that's one of the things that he reported, that he was like, this is kind of deep to me. Now, does this bring you any more pause, Dave, because it is a religious man?
No,
that is actually bringing this up.
No, not a singular bit of pause. And it's because, he's a religious man. One, I don't know exactly how religious he is, and I don't care if he's I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, because you could have that status and you could still not be as religious as people might think you are. So, but also, I mean, he obviously jumped in this knowing something like this might happen. And like I said, just those words, just that conversation, like you might be able to have that conversation with some chat bots right now on the internet. And that's not a joke. Like, you could actually go and have conversations similar to this. A chat bot will be a little stupid most of the time. It'll run off the conversation very quickly, but you'll have those moments. And that for me does not mean a singular thing.
So one thing I didn't do, and maybe I'll post this up if people are interested, the Insider article has a link to the Blake Lemoyne's Medium, where he posts up the full conversation between him and this linguistics AI bot. So if you're interested in going to see what Skynet will do to your brain, definitely go and read up on that. I might actually go and read up on that, because why not? I always like reading things that are fucked up, and then I'll be convinced that, iRobot was wrong and we need to give robots rights all the time. But so there's that went on. That's in the AI AGI sector. Kind of connected to this is the facial recognition stuff, because obviously facial recognition runs off algorithms and uses AI in order to commit these algorithms into doing their thing. I've read from the 13th, 3 days ago, to today, the 16th, Dave, 4 different articles, all concerning different countries and facial recognition. Dave, you have something to say there?
No. I'm looking stuff up. Keep going.
You're looking stuff up. Okay. But, and facial recognition. The first one I read from Vice, and, Vice used to be cool. Vice kind of sucks now. But the headline, facial recognition is out of control in India. That is the actual headline. It is out of control in India. Now, there's a little bit of liberal progressivism because they always have to throw this in with AI. Like, AI is racist. It can't detect black and brown people as good. But it's being used in India. What the fuck? But anyway, basically, police are using AI in a fucking ridiculous way in India. If they pull a person over, they're just like, yeah, stand there. They put an iPad up to their face, take a picture, and then run their facial recognition through a database. And I think they're using Clearview or a Clearview AI, which is a company, as an awful company. They are a bad actor in the world stage, 100%. And I think they're using Clearview AI, version of it that they gave over to India. The Samagram is the name of it. And it's wild the way the police are using it there, and rightfully so. There are equal rights groups and privacy rights groups in India raising a lot of shit about this because it's like they're using photographs, they're using CCTV cameras in the major cities. I think one of them had like 2 million cameras in the city, and another one of their other cities had like over 1 million cameras, and they're taking pictures of people randomly for no fucking reason. And, the people that are defending this are couching it as, well, we have it in stores because we want to catch criminals and it makes it easier. And I think it's kind of hypocritical for me to be coming at this in America because, Dave, how many times have we seen on news? Have you seen this suspect? And it's a CCTV from a random spot on a fucking street. Suspects walking around. Like, we use it too, but it's being out in the open that they're using. Like, I don't know if that type of stuff is going to appear on your nightly news anymore, Dave, because now it's going to be, what we see in things like Eagle Eye, the movie Eagle Eye, or a lot of these movies that have used high tech where from a satellite, they're keying in a box on somebody's face and it's like ID'd. Like, we're getting that exact thing. And that shit has always been scary to people. But the cops are using it in India that way. That's one place. Then there was another article that I read about how it's being used in Ukraine. Now, this is from The Conversation. I've never heard of The Conversation. It's probably an awful news site because it's called The Conversation, and that is a stupid name. And let's just have a conversation about it. But so Ukraine is quite literally using Clearview AI, the company I talked about. Clearview AI is giving it to them pro bono. And what Ukraine is doing it as, it's fucked up, Dave. What they are doing is they are using this to identify Russian soldiers. Oh, there's a lot of interference there. Dave, do you hear that?
Yeah, it's Clearview.
Is that Clearview fucking with us? Is that from me or you?
I have no idea, but it's all right. We'll see if it happens again.
Let's see. I'm concerned. Clearview is messing with us now. Mess with some wires here. Oh, certainly on my end. What is going on here?
Just don't move around too much.
Oh no, I don't know what's going on.
You're good. You're good now.
No, I can hear like boop, 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 boop in my ear. Clearview AI is fucking with us right now because we are messing with it. See this, Dave? I'm about to have like a Timcast level squat.
Yeah, okay.
Squat come in on me.
You wish.
I mean, that would be scary as shit. Not gonna lie. I don't have Timcast level security here. But anyway, so back to Clearview AI as they're starting to try and mess with our little show here. So they are using it in Ukraine as a way of identifying soldiers on the Russian side so that they can send the identification back to the Russian military's family. And they're telling the family members, you can come and collect their bodies as a way to curtail the Russian war effort. They say they're also using it to identify Ukrainian soldiers for quicker ways to get to their families and things like that. But what the fuck? Go ahead, Dave.
Overall, kind of badass. I'm not going to lie to you.
It is badass. But it's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
It is really fucked up. And in this article, Dave, is where Clearview AI states that it wants to have 100 billion facial images of people around the world by 2023. They want to have a database of the planet, of every single person. Now, United Kingdom has fined them 7.5 million euro for collecting images of people in the UK and elsewhere on the web and social media without anyone's knowing. And intention of selling to governments and police and personnel. I think this is also the article saying where they've been kicked out of. I can't see. I'm not scrolling quick enough, but they've been kicked out of like most of the European countries have absolutely banned Clearview AI from doing business there because it is the same thing. They are stealing a bunch of shit. And here they used 2 billion images from Kentucky, a Russian social networking service. They've taken all of these images to try and identify Russian soldiers. It is absolutely outrageous what Clearview AI is doing. But a lot of law enforcement have denied being involved with Clearview AI, as they should. It's based out of New York. I think they proved that in California they did it, and then California banned them. And I think California is like slowly banning just facial recognition in general. Oh, here we go. Data protection authorities in Canada, France, Italy, Australia, and Greece have all fined, investigated, and banned Clearview AI from collecting images of people. And they're only a small list that I found. So it's pretty wild what's going on with this company. They are the exact company that we should fear with a lot of this stuff. And the last country that brought this up, Australia. Australia is trying to fight back more than anyone else currently. This article was posted up 7 hours ago, updated 2 hours ago. So I might be missing something here. But they've called for a review of the national framework of the use of facial recognition technology. And the issue that Australia raised with this, they raised all the same issues there, that it's against privacy. They're taking pictures from everyone. Talks about Clearview AI again. They're the big perpetrators here. And one of the things they bring up, though, is there's no legislation against this yet in any of the countries, really. You know, some countries are starting to do it. The countries I mentioned have them in place and have banned Clearview from doing this type of shit. Australia doesn't have that type of language in place, and they're concerned that this facial recognition tool, this data recognition, is bad, and that it's going to be used for nefarious means. And we will get Minority Report type of shit out of this, without a doubt. Now, Dave, just with those few things that I brought up there with those countries, what do you feel about Clearview AI, facial recognition, our law enforcement, our government, our military getting a hold of all this shit?
I don't like any of it. Truly, I don't like any of it. So like you said, of course, it does feel a little weird saying something about it because of the country we live in and the way it's used in some ways here. I'm not exactly sure if we use Clearview, but for me, it's just the invasion of privacy there is not great. It is not great, and it just can be used for so many terrible things. And it doesn't even have to be some atrocity. It just has to be, oh, we know who you are. Do this, or else you don't know what could happen. And that's the issue here. And honestly, you don't really even have to threaten someone with something. If someone just gets like an anonymous message saying that, oh, I know where you live, or something like that.
I mean, I know what you did last summer. It scared the shit out of a whole generation. Imagine getting a thing like that.
Yeah. Still, the thing is, even now in this day and age where we don't care about our privacy as much as we used to, that's still something that freaks someone out.
It would scare the hell out of anybody with a normal human brain.
But that's the thing. Exactly. Yeah. So like I said, it doesn't have to be any kind of atrocity that's committed against someone just from the use of this. Obviously there could be, but it's just the looming threat. The looming threat of someone knowing who you are and most likely where you are at almost any time of the day. That is not, it makes someone anxious. It makes someone worried naturally.
And I mean, and if you know the history of the United States, the NSA, Carnivore, Patriot Act, and now we carry around smartphones. Me and you are both talking via, Zoom with our cameras. Like, we are constantly giving all this information to everybody. We're, Facebook, all of our social media, anything we do there, we are giving information away. And what we don't realize, what we do now, but what we didn't realize when we first started using these things, the moment you put a picture on Facebook, it's not your property anymore. It is Facebook's property. And that was in the language. Everything that we clicked, I agree on real quick to get these fucking things in the language there. Any tweet that you make is not yours anymore. It's not a property of Twitter. And that's where the line has been blurred, and Section 230 has really fucked a lot of things up. And it's now hard because just because you tweeted something out, what's stopping Twitter from giving that to authorities or working with them? And that's been a line blurred a bunch of times when it's come to things. And, we see it constantly like, well, why aren't police taking more Facebook posts seriously? Because, how serious are you going to take social media posts? Because then you would have to take every rap song seriously. Then you would have to take every single, if somebody makes a fucked up movie where their character that they created is killing a whole bunch of people and going on a mass murder spree, do you now have to investigate that creative mind that did that? Is that going to warrant an investigation because they had the ability to think of it? I don't think so. I write. And when you're in a zone of writing, you think of creative things and you just write down what you think of. David and I, me and you are gigantic fans of, Japanese anime and manga. We have seen some really screwed up things. Alice in Borderlands comes to mind, Dave. Alice in Borderlands and Future Diary and Death Note. Do I think that those creators are actually going to actually want to kill people, actually want to do murder games? Maybe. Who knows? Because we don't know them. But more than likely, no. More than likely, they just have a creative mind and they're able to, compartmentalize this and create it. But this is where we get blurred there. Now, we're going to have a bigger blurring with what's coming up next. Because anyone that was a faithful follower of this show, they used to listen to when I used to do the dailies, probably got tired of me talking about ID.me. Well, they are back, bitches, and they're back in a big way. So I decided, after looking up all this facial recognition stuff and all that, what has ID.me been doing? And, on the 14th, 2 days ago, they happen to be announcing that they now have a diversity, inclusion, equity officer that is coming in to make sure that technology there's something that they use over. Oh, here it is. This guy, Tadayoshi Kohono, who is nicknamed Yoshi, it's really a cute nickname. He's there to promote privacy, security, equity, and access in a digital identity. Just in that headline, there's a ton of shit wrong. So a digital identity, Dave, we've been warning about this forever. You don't want a digital identity. We already have them. They're already there. Every single profile you ever make, every one of those dumb fucking quizzes you answer, any of those stupid lists you repost on Facebook or anything where you're answering, you're creating a digital identity already there. Google, Facebook, Amazon already have it. ID.me wants to now give it all to the government. Where Facebook, Twitter, Google, they've all kind of resisted. Google now works with the government directly. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing because they might be giving us away already. But it's never been this out in the open. Between, the smart card that they were promoting with the immunization passport, the smart passport, and now ID.me flat out saying they're working with governments. They are in governments. They have never left the IRS, people. They have grown into 30 states, counting now with your unemployment and more stuff going on with them. They are within government. ID.me has over 90 million users in this country alone. It is a ridiculous number. And now they're bringing on a diversity, inclusion, equity officer. Dave, do you want to go over why this is bad for everybody that not only a company that now wants you to have a digital identity, know everything about you, works with the governments, now brings in a Marxist commissar?
I kind of feel like I already went over what I said, but it's just, yet again, honestly, with the Marxist commissar, it kind of leads over to atrocity at that point, especially if you're not going according to whatever ideology that they put over their Marxism belief. And that's the issue here, is that especially when people know your identity so well without you knowing that they know your identity, is that they can almost force you to do what they want. And if you don't do what they want, they could do something about it. Not that they will, but they could. that's always a possibility if the person wants to. So, and that's the biggest issue here, is that there's so much unknown that a person can do with your identity, and that it is for the best for you to be a little more private and for them not to know these things. Now, obviously, as we're going more and more towards the future, and we're reaching technology that has the ability, that has even more ability than what we have now. And there is going to be times where, obviously it's already happened, where people give up some more of their privacy in order, just for convenience sake. And then there are times where they seem to be coming up pretty soon, where we'll have to say, the convenience is probably not worth what could come of what is happening here. It's probably not worth, because let's just say all of the people that are in charge of this right now are great people. They won't do anything with it. It's literally just for security purposes. That's fine. What is to happen if up and coming people are not of the same type of person, and now they have all of this data, now they have all this information, now they have all this power, and that's the issue here. It doesn't matter if the people that are doing this right now are fantastic people, like legitimate role models, almost super people. It does not matter. What matters is that ability, that power in place that can be transferred to almost anyone who you don't know of, can be used against you at any time.
Yeah, you're completely right with that about, they could be Boy Scouts right now, but we don't know what the future is. But the issue is, we now know they're not. Bringing in a diversity, inclusion, equity officer almost assures you that if you're not in the right ideology, ID.me is going to red flag you, regardless of what is wrong with you. Regardless if there's nothing wrong with you. You could be a model citizen, but the fact that you voted for Donald Trump, the fact that you might vote for DeSantis in the future, or you attended a school board meeting and talked out about DEI or social emotional learning. Those types of things, or DIE. Sorry, David, correct me. It's DIE. It's not DEI. DIE. It's DIE. But the fact that you will have these things and combine this with ESG, which environmental social governance. Dave, I don't know if I told you, I saw a commercial not too long ago. I forget which bank it was. It might have been Chase Bank or World Bank, one of those. One of the big banks in America, where a woman, whatever the hell she is, checks her phone and checks her ESG score on her phone for the bank commercial. I think it was talking about getting loans and stuff, where beginning when, the people on the right were raising the red flag. I think Glenn Beck was one of the first ones to raise ESG as a big problem. What was being said, especially by the financial banking sector? No, it's not for you guys. It's for the companies. For the companies. They're the ones, because we need to make sure that the stakeholders are getting it. So ESG is important. So blah, 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 which stakeholder capitalism is bullshit. Anyway, it's Marxism. But that's what we were promised. And like always, they're always wrong. And the right and their conspiracy theories have been proven to be right quite literally over the past decade, every fucking time. And no, QAnon is not on the right. They're insane. They're basically Bible thumpers. They're stupid. But I saw that and I'm just like, combine ESG like that with ID.me creating a digital with the smart vaccination passport. You combine these all together, the government gets a hold of it. We are going to have an authoritarian dictatorship in this country a lot quicker than we ever thought could happen.
What country do most of the elites praise the most whenever they talk about China? They absolutely love China because of China's control over the populace.
Yep.
And what a surprise. A bunch of people who think they're better than you think that they should have control over you. And this just makes it much easier for them. That's why they love their surveillance stuff. That's why they love ESG, because it just allows control over a populace. And it's very obvious. If you don't want to believe us, go ahead and look it up. It's not very difficult to see that it just allows control over people. So that's the biggest issue. That's why not only do you need to talk about it, but you need to fight against it in every way possible. You need to find out. Honestly, I should probably switch over to a local bank that doesn't adhere to any of that stuff.
None of
Because
the big banks.
exactly, you really shouldn't be allowing any of them to hold your money if you can, if at all possible, because they don't deserve it, because they don't actually care about you at all. They care about the people who are telling them what to do. That's all they care about. And it's the same. We've complained about a lot of things on this podcast, and it's the same thing with almost every single thing that we've complained about. ESG and people only listening to what their uppers want them to do. Yep. What those above them want them to do. We complain about it all the time with movies and such. It's because they do not care about the actual consumer. They do not care about the fan. There's very little movies that do. And you'll find that when those movies do care and they actually are pretty good, it's because it was some director or someone that actually pitched it, and it wasn't the goddamn company that made it. It was someone's passion project that they went to the company for, because that's the only way they get the money and they have the ability to actually pull it off. Everything. So I know you read it, the Woke Inc.
I was just about to bring up.
But if you haven't noticed. Yes. If you haven't noticed that everyone who complained about corporatism, I want to say 20 years ago, is completely correct to the fact that it's these out of touch, absolute dickheads who think they're above everyone else, combined with the woke ideology, because it's so easy to abuse and lash at people with it. They combine it together. They say, oh, look at what we have here. It's the same thing that, like, we've talked about Kenobi that came out. They prepped Moses Ingram. They said, oh, we have racist fans. Then Moses Ingram comes out and shows 3 of the lamest racist messages I've ever seen in my life. And then there wasn't, the YouTube title was awful. But yet again, 4 things out of what? And you go on her Instagram page and there's nothing on there from comments about anything negative about her. And so obviously either someone who never uses the internet in her life, or someone along with some company utilizing verbal abuse in order for someone to not talk about their corporate grift, because that's what it is. They're corporately grifting off of a fan base that loves something so much that they don't want to see it destroyed. And you use it in, I mean, I know I'm off the surveillance state thing.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It all fits in.
But yeah, for me, it's just everything that comes together. It's all these elite people that think they're that much better than you, that think that you need to be watched over, that think that everything you do needs to be watched over because you just don't know as good as them. You're just not as good as them. You don't know as much. You don't know how to save the planet. You don't know how to do these things. That's why it's always your fault. That's why we need to watch you. It's for your benefit. It's so you're not racist, so you're not sexist, so you're not homophobic. It's all for your benefit.
Or transphobic now either.
Or transphobic. It doesn't matter. But whatever. Whatever they want it to be, because as long as they're lashing out at you, as long as you are demotivated to do anything, is the way that they can actually control you. And I know a lot of people, as soon as they hear that word, they're like, oh, you're talking like a conspiracy theorist. I mean,
we're not, dude. Because look at social media and all the fucking Ukraine flags turned into pride flags, but before it was BLM, and you are being controlled. You are being controlled.
And that's the biggest issue here, is like, I could maybe understand saying that 20 years ago, when these things weren't as very out in the open, as very obvious.
Not as easy to do either.
Exactly. But I'm sorry to tell you this, when you have the World Economic Forum putting things out like, oh, by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Bluntly. I think there's some people that want to control you a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's okay to say.
You know, and again, I'm going to give a shout out to Vivek Ramaswamy, Woke Inc. Go look it up. It's a great, and here's the deal. I told you this, Dave. I don't agree with a bunch of stuff Vivek Ramaswamy says in terms of conclusions. And he's a little bit more of your centrist conservative. Not as much on the right as me and you are, Dave. Mm-hmm. But his general premise and what he calls out and what he does, it was all assumed and known by us, but none of us are millionaires. None of us are in the game. None of us are in finance. This is a guy that was in it and is now going to war with them because he's starting his own major fund to go against BlackRock and Vanguard. And BlackRock and Vanguard have started to kind of tone down their ESG shit with him coming in the game because he has the capital and he has the smarts to compete with them. So he's doing great stuff right now. Talking about Star Wars real quick. You want to know the saddest part about Moses Ingram and the Reva character? Her acting as a character wasn't amazing because she was kind of just generic angry villain, which whatever. Star Wars has a ton of those. I'm not going to rip her for being that because the Star Wars universe has a lot of that. A lot of these do. Her story actually ended up not being bad. It actually ended up tying back into Obi-Wan pretty well because I watched all the episodes. I like Star Wars. The sad thing is with Disney preemptively doing that, they probably fucked up anything that you could have of enjoyment from this character. Because I will say, the way that they tied her to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, all that, if they would have just shut the fuck up, probably would have been a really big story as of last Wednesday. Probably would have been awesome. And it was a solid piece to add to the lure of Star Wars. And it could have been an emotional one. It could have been actually a really big moment because of what they did, because of what they had Ewan McGregor do, because of what Hayden Christensen came out and said, because of what all these white knights came out and said about Moses Ingram. Nobody cares about Reva's story. Nobody gives a shit about Reva's story. It doesn't matter. And let's not talk about the Middle Eastern chick who plays Tala in there. There was a Middle Eastern woman playing Tala. Fantastic actress. She was also on Game of Thrones. No one gives a shit about her. She had a fairly major part. No one talks about her. No one gives a fuck about her. But again, they ruined what could have been, she wasn't the greatest actress in this, and I don't know if she was given much to work with. 'Cause I think she was probably given, be generic, angry, dark, evil person, act it out. But they fucked up anything they could have had with her. And lastly, I just want to bring up, because me and you have done a full episode on Don't Blindly Back the Blue. And this is reason one why do not blindly back the blue. What did I talk about throughout all this? First thing I said, India's police walked up to somebody with a fucking tablet, took their pictures so they can identify them. There are a lot of good cops, very good cops out there. But there is a large swath of power-hungry motherfuckers out there that will just, if they get more power, will just say, yes, sir. I'm telling you right now, the way that we will be taken over in this country, if it does happen, is the way it's occurring currently. Schools are creating activists. That is one. The kids that are passing high school, college right now are not going to see a problem with ID.me getting a DIE commissar. They're going to love it. They're going to praise it. So your schools are, creating these activists that agree with the Marxist bullshit. Number two, the businesses are going to get involved. The ESG stuff with the businesses, you can't get a loan unless you have the right, ESG score. And finally, the cops are going to be the ones to enforce all this. That's what people don't understand. The military, where you have big movies where militaries come in or governments make big sweeping shifts and the president rages, and no. A president will become a dictator because the local municipalities have their police doing all these laws. That is how this will happen. And we saw a glimpse of it during COVID where people were out in a park without a mask and were getting harassed by cops. Not wearing masks either most of the time. So please support your good cops, but be wary of the fucked up ones. Because they exist and there's a ton of them. So do not blindly back the blue. I'm going back to that. And also be wary of all this stuff. Look it up. Be on top of it. Because, man, it's worth it. It's worth it to at least know where you're about to get shit on. If you really don't even want to do anything, at least know why and when it's going to happen and who's doing it. What else you got, Dave, before we close out?
If you're not worried about this because of inflation and the upcoming recession, I completely understand it.
But it is sooner than later now.
But it is good to know that they'll be tracking you to make sure you don't get any of that meat that's supposed to be rationed to you only for today. Only that much. You're allowed to have only that much.
Well, Dave, there's a meat shortage now because of all the freak explosions and fires going on at meat industry, at meat places that have never happened in the history of the meat packing industry Now, over the last year, I think 30 of the major areas have had big accidents in their meats. I wonder why.
We need to go to Arby's. They have the meats.
They have the meats for now. All right. Dave, anything you got to say before we got to go? Before Clearview AI really shuts us down.
I know. Listen, there's not much you can really do as a singular person, but there is some things you could do as a singular person.
Share this show, starting with that.
You could share this show, but you could also just be a little up and up on the info. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of crazy shit coming out. There always is. Try to be as accurate as possible. We might not have been during the show. Honestly, we might not have been.
I'm trusting news articles from shitty sources too, so those aren't always the greatest.
Exactly. But try to be as accurate as possible. And just, I know I went on a diatribe about people lashing out and people trying to abuse you, but that is what is happening now. And just find your foundation, find your base. Don't get pushed off your foundation. Don't get demoralized. Don't get demotivated. Keep pushing and keep going against the things that is against your beliefs. If it is against your beliefs, don't kowtow to it. Don't capitulate. Don't do it. It's against your beliefs. You have as much of a right as anyone else to say, no, I do not agree with that.
And, Alexander Solzhenitsyn said it perfectly, author of the Gulag Archipelago. I'm going to preface it because I don't know the exact quote. You might be tired, exhausted, and ready to quit, but the communists are never tired. They're never exhausted, and they will never quit. So you got to fight back against it. And just piggybacking on what David says, don't be afraid if you are in a debate, an argument, a conversation with somebody, and if you know your facts, you know you're right, and you have this, don't be afraid to just say no. You're wrong. Don't be afraid don't be nice all the time. They're not. When the left argues, they're not nice. They never are. Because they believe they have the facts on their side and they believe they're right. Don't agree to disagree. I've done this recently where people have been like, let's agree to disagree. And I said no, because you're wrong. Don't be afraid to stand up for your convictions. It's the best thing you could do. And you know what? It feels pretty good. It does. It feels pretty good. You don't have to be a dick about it. If you know your facts, you could just state them. And if they don't, or if they try to debate, continue to state what you know. If you know what you're talking about, prove your point, say what you got to say, whether most of the time when you prove your point, the person will try to say, agree to disagree. And that's when you just say, no, you're wrong. And that's okay. But I hope you took something from this. Like David said, don't be afraid to have morals. Don't be afraid to have convictions. And don't be afraid to upgrade them and update them when you find out new things. Don't be a rigid asshole either, because that's also wrong. But all right, I'm going to let everyone go. We're going to get out of here ourselves. Dave, as always, it was fun. Maybe we'll be back on Wednesday next week. Maybe we won't. Who the hell knows? But it was always a good time. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials, The Alex Questa Show. Everybody, thanks for coming so long. Goodbye.